Mary had a little man.
We believe that all men are created equal.
To the magnificent mosaic that is America.
From radio beacon to radio beacon.
I have a dream today.
Change has come to America.
Believe me.
Help is on the way.
Knock, knock. Who's there?
It's a figment of your imagination.
Randi Rhodes Show.
Turn up your mind.
Roll call today as Russian President Vladimir Putin's new draft came into effect. Russia wants 300,000 new soldiers to reverse recent losses in Ukraine. But many Russians don't want to serve. Human rights groups say more than 1,000 demonstrators have been arrested. Putin seems so desperate, he's threatening to use nuclear weapons. Secretary of State Blinken tonight calling on the UN Security Council to send a message.
These reckless nuclear threats must stop immediately.
Just 2 miles across the Russian border, Ukrainians are undeterred. Ukrainian forces recently drove Russian troops from the town of Kozachka-Lapan.
What do you think about Russia's partial mobilization, that Putin is trying to round up hundreds of thousands of more troops to send them here?
They're unqualified cannon fodder, and they will be killed here, says Andriy. Local mayor Vyacheslav Zodorenko was one of the first Ukrainians to enter Kozachka-Lapan. He cut down the Russian flag, and then he found his mother. My golden boy, I knew you would liberate me, she says.
Are you worried that there's going to be a new Russian offensive, that Russia's going to come back stronger than it was before?
It doesn't matter how many people they're mobilizing, the mayor says. The whole of Ukraine will rise against them.
Tomorrow, in areas still occupied by Russian troops, Ukrainians will start voting to permanently join up with Russia. Critics call the vote a sham.
How could it not be a sham? How could it not be? The Russians are at war with a country, Ukraine. And Ukraine is occupied in certain areas by Russian forces in a live war, and they're going to have an election. Come on. This is backcrap stuff, really. Putin cannot win. He could, actually prevail in this sham election. I just want everybody to pay attention. I just, because he's a very close friend of the Trump, and I just want you to see what the future might look like with regard to sham elections, counting votes, who gets to count them, voting while under occupation or duress. I will tell you, I think it was Sweden or Finland, one of the Nordic countries actually put out a video last night saying, hey, if you could have an election in an occupied Ukrainian city that is being occupied by, unwelcome forces, then we can have the people vote to annex themselves to Sweden. So let's put Sweden on the ballot too and ask them, do they want to come under Russian rule, or would you like to be part of Sweden? Yeah, that's how ridiculous this thing is. And I have to tell you that they're burning recruitment centers in Russia. They're literally setting fire to recruiters' offices in St. Petersburg and in Dagestan, yes, and in far-flung places, because they don't want to fight. Think about it this way. You weren't even allowed to say that this special operation was war for 7 damn months in Russia without facing the bar of injustice at the behest of Putin. I mean, the Russians weren't even allowed to call this a war. They had to call it a special operation. Now, all of a sudden, they're mobilizing every living, breathing man that they can get their hands on, whether they're in prison or they're 60 or they're 50 or they're disabled or they're whatever. They're just rounded students. They're going into schools. Protesters, by the way, the protesters that you see, not only are they being threatened with jail and taken into the paddy wagon to be brought down to the, jailhouse, but then they're conscripted. Then they are put on a bus and sent to Ukraine. How does Putin expect to win when the dissidents, the people that are against what he's doing, are the ones that he's recruiting and giving guns to, who are going to Ukraine? Some of them have said they will cut their fingers off so that they can't fire a gun. because they will never shoot a Ukrainian. How in the world can this man win? He can't. So that's why the sham election. Here's what he's doing, just so you're aware of what is going on in this world and how many decent souls walk this earth with us, whether you understand their language or their culture or how it got this bad or not, okay? Russians, Iranians, you have an entire generation, Gen Z for the most part, Gen X, a couple of millennials thrown in there, that are so sick of all of the oppression. They're just so tired of the lies. They're just so tired of being strangled, of having their lives suffocated out from under them just because they have an autocratic leader like a mullah or a Putin or Trump. Okay, they're just sick of it. They're sick of the lies. They're sick of the oppression. They're sick of being suffocated. They're sick of not knowing what's true and what's not true on the TV. People are just disgusted and tired and pushing back against this oppression, pushing back against suffocation, and they want to breathe free. They want freedom. So you have people in Russia that are doing it. You have people in Iran that are doing it. You have people in America who are doing it. And, so what Putin, all he has left is to do this sham election, okay? Because this is the last bastion of tyrants. Doesn't matter who votes, matters who counts the votes. He's at the end of that proposition. And so in occupied regions like Luhansk and, the Donbass region, you know which ones I'm talking about, right? Don't ask. So he's having the sham election. When the people are counted by his, authority, they will have voted. I mean, there's just no question. They will have voted to be with Russia. They will have voted to declare themselves Russian territory. And then Putin will be able to turn around and say to the world that he needs to defend Russian territory and that in defense of Russian territory, he is allowed and permitted to use nuclear weapons. And that is where we are. That is what is going on over there. That is what is happening, and people are not having very much of it. Now, I'm watching, a lot of the people, you're seeing these repetitive scenes of people loaded onto buses. And you see, some mainstream Russians loaded onto buses. And then they go out in the field. They all pass around copious amounts of vodka. They get ridiculously drunk. And they start screaming, like, why are we dying for this guy? Why are we even going there? And having second and third and fourth thoughts. But if they don't get on the bus, they will be put on the bus. They will be, deported. They will be to Ukraine, right? And then I'm looking at some of the regions, and because Americans aren't very familiar with regions in Russia, and Russia is ginormous. I mean, it's enormous. I forget how many time zones that swath of land covers. But I know that for the most part, Americans think that when they think of Russia, you probably think of St. Petersburg and Moscow and maybe some suburbs. I don't know, but that is not Russia. That is part of, those are the cities, the main cities of Russia. It's the seat of government in Russia, okay? But Russia is ginormous. And I'm looking at where he's getting some of these people, and he's going to there are cities that are near the Arctic Circle that are, have you ever seen the pictures? This is kind of a famous picture of, I think it's a girl where her eyelashes are white, okay, frozen eyelashes, and her whole face is frozen. So that's part of this region near the Arctic Circle. It's the coldest inhabited region of the globe. That's where he's going to get people. And he's going to rural Russia to get people. And let me tell you, I keep on trying to express this to you. Don't underestimate the power of Russian mothers. They are going to demand that Putin go. They're going to and the oligarchs, they just might go for that.
All things Randi at RandiRhodes.com.
Go for launch.
Speaking truth to power, The Randi Rhodes Show.
Let us speak plainly. A permanent member of the United Nations Security Council invaded its neighbor, attempted to erase a sovereign state from the map. Russia has shamelessly violated the core tenets of the United Nations Charter. No more important than the clear prohibition against countries taking the territory of their neighbor by force. Again, just today, President Putin has made overt nuclear threats against Europe and a reckless disregard for the responsibilities of the non-proliferation regime. Now, Russia's calling up more soldiers to join the fight, and the Kremlin is organizing a sham referenda to try to annex parts of Ukraine, an extremely significant violation of the UN Charter.
I mean, this is so disgusting, what he's doing. And there's rumors that Putin's dying. I don't know if they're true or not. I have no idea. And quite frankly, I don't think it matters at this point. I think that his people, the Russian men, Generation Z, they're not going to go to Ukraine and fight their brothers. There's no way. They're not going to go. They don't want to go. They don't want to fight. If they got there, if they were arrested and they were bussed into Ukraine and forced to hold weapons and shoot, I don't think they would. And so he can't win. And he has to know that. And so all he has left, just like, when you look at, what our autocrat knew, he knew he couldn't win either. He knew he was going to lose. And so what do? They start screaming that the election was rigged, or they get a few hangers on to go to the Capitol and try and stop the certification of a free and fair election. Putin is so far down the autocratic road that he doesn't even have to say elections are rigged anymore. He just rigs them. He just goes ahead and rigs them. He just says it doesn't matter who votes. It matters who counts. And that is what he does. And then he's going to declare that, Luhansk and Donbass, the whole region there, belongs to Russia because the people voted. The people voted to be part of Russia. And now I have to defend the territory by any means necessary. And you know where that leads. You really think guys who have, amassed fortunes in Russia by, kicking back to the mob boss, by kicking back to Putin a portion of the proceeds, but in return, they're left unmolested without competition in their field, whether it's mining or natural gas or shipping or, whatever their deal is, right? So they've been kicking back to Putin, making him a very, very rich man. Do you think that they're going to watch all of their ill-gotten gains be sapped off of their, taken away from them because Putin wants to nuke Donbass? Because I don't think that they're going to go along with that. I'm not convinced that that's something that they will do. But this is where we are in the world now, because we have crazy people who never have enough power. I mean, you just think about, the reason why this is happening is because Vladimir Putin wanted more and more and more. And they're like power junkies. They're addicted to it. It's the same thing that's plaguing Donald Trump. Donald Trump, he could have lived his whole life as a very, very wealthy man. He could have cheated banks for the rest of his life, could have cheated insurance companies for the rest of his life, and just, could have passed it on to his kids and just been another, billionaire. Just another guy who, we all believed the mystery about how smart he was, how rich he was, how we wished that we were as good at business as he was. But, behind every great fortune, as you now know for real, there's always a great crime, right? So Putin could have lived the rest of his days this way too, but no, he needed more. He needed more. It's like, he didn't get off on the power he had anymore. It wasn't enough power. It wasn't, straight to the vein, fast enough. It's almost like they can't stop themselves from ODing themselves. And so what does he do? He invades Ukraine. He invades his freaking neighbor. and then tells his people not to speak of war. There is no war. The propaganda machine on the TV, on the internets, they are, totally, making the case that Ukraine, they're Nazis and they need to be beaten back. He's still saying they're Nazis. I mean, this is what he's doing. Oh, well, we're denazifying Ukraine. I mean, these are freaking farmers, okay? These are people that were going about their business, enjoying their democracy, trying to build something good, getting rid of the oligarchs, getting rid of the corruption, getting rid of the bad prosecutors, getting rid of, a justice system that was, just as corrupt as the leadership, and trying to build a better place, a better democracy for their kids. And now all of a sudden you have this crazy, power-drunk, power-sick, lying sack who controls the military, controls voting, controls the counting, controls his borders, controls everything, and he wants more. He wants more. He wants Ukraine. And so he goes and takes it and kills people. So today, this is the saddest part of it. I'm telling you, the people that live in rural Russia, they're not okay, okay? They're not okay. They're very, very, very drunk people. There's a lot of alcoholism. There's a lot of brutality. There's a lot of misogyny. There's a lot of, resentment and grievance inside Russia. And so you have a lot of drinking, a lot of drowning of your sorrows, a lot of drowning of your anger, or, lighting a match to your anger. Depends on your personality, right? But the Russian soldiers who went into Ukraine, that the Ukrainians were telling you repeatedly how drunk they were. They were telling you how drunk they were, how bizarre they were, how they were stealing washing machines because they had never seen a washing machine. That's how Putin keeps his people, like so freaking poor, like so down in the dumps, like no hope, no nothing. In fact, Putin's trying to sell some of these people on fighting for the motherland's future. And you know what their answer to him is? We don't have a present. What do you mean a future? You're asking us to see a future. We don't even see a present. Get the hell out of here. You've asked enough of us already. But they're so drunk. And they rape. They're very rapey people, these drunk monkeys. And they went into Ukraine and they raped their way through a good chunk of the territory that Ukraine has now taken back. And now this independent, war crimes tribunal has looked at what, Ukraine has asserted are war crimes. Well, you saw some of the war crimes. They attacked kindergartens. They bombed a theater that clearly had on the top of the roof in Ukrainian and Russian the word children, okay? And they bombed it anyway. And then people were saying that they were rapey, that they were raping old ladies. They were raping women in the villages, and they were raping the women's children. And now an independent group of war crimes, a war crimes tribunal, has looked at it and said, yeah, some of these war crimes are, beyond the pale. That if you understood what they did to people, they tortured people. They raped people. They stole from people. They got drunk and took over people's houses and threw them out in the street. I mean, the crap that they did was so counterintuitive, let's say, to winning hearts and minds. And now the colonels and the mid-level management, they're facing war crimes.
Call in, connect. To speak to Randi, call 561-270-3844.
Yeah.
561-270-3844.
All right, everybody. Welcome to the fall season. It's not fall here. We're expecting a hurricane probably next week on Wednesday. Same day that we're going to have hearings at the January 6th Select Committee. That should be fun. But it is fall in most of the United States. Although they're having a hurricane up north, like way up north. Canada's going to have a hell of a weather weekend. Alaska had a hell of a weather weekend last weekend. I mean, it's just so crazy. It's so crazy. So you could listen to propaganda about, that's been put out by the oil and gas industry, trying to cling to the last possibilities of oil and gas usage in this world. Or you could orient yourself to a modern new world with facts and guide yourself accordingly. You know, I don't make decisions of how you live your life. I just tell you what life is. I just tell you what's true about the world. That's it, right? And that's because Free Speech TV believes in fact-based, independent news, independent media, independent information that isn't dependent on corporate whims or corporate money or politics and political parties and donations from political PACs. We don't take any political money and we don't take any corporate money. We are completely listener and viewer supported. And it means you. It means you. So it's fall. This is our fall Free Speech TV pledge drive. And we ask today that you go ahead and make a donation of $5, $10, $15, $100, $200, whatever you can do. And know that frontline funders who put their money where my mouth is will match you dollar for dollar up to $50,000. And we have all kinds of little things that we like to send to you as a thank you gift, everything from beer koozies to T-shirts to tote bags to hats to cups. You know, you make your donation, we'll double it, and then you can ask for, whatever the gift is that is commensurate with the amount that you donated. So enjoy doing that. Just give us a call at 877-378-8669. That will put you in touch with one of our happy peppy people in Denver, Colorado, who depend on these pledge drives in order to get paid. That is what they're for, to keep the main offices of Free Speech TV, which are in Denver, Colorado, operating. Because when they operate, the signal actually gets distributed properly. And it ends up on DirecTV channel 348. It ends up on Dish Network 9415. It ends up on Apple TV. It ends up on Roku. It ends up on Sling, right? So you can watch it for free. It's a good deal. So if you want to use the computer, by all means, just go to freespeech.org, freespeech.org, and donate that way. Or if you're listening on your mobile device, just text 44321, 44321. Put in the letters FSTV, Free Speech TV. We'll send you a secure link, and you can make your donation that way. And just know, everything that you do will be matched way up to $50,000 today. So we appreciate all that. All right, so we're in the midst of a world that is pushing back, a world that is just angry. And but you know, here in the United States, when people get angry, they seem to want to be lied to. They seem to want to be told about a conspiracy theory or about a bunch of people unlike them who are out to get them. You know, they like they like the white supremacy thing. Oh, if only white people ran it, it wouldn't be this way. If only white people ran everything, things would be more equitable. Things would be more understandable. Things would be more equal. What? You can't get any more white than Russia. It ain't working. It has nothing to do with race. The issues that plague us have to do with revolving doors. It has to do with money in politics. It has to do with an oligarch or a autocrat trying to lord his fantasy or lord his way over people. It has to do with abolishing our constitutional protections against establishment of a national religion. See, these white Christian nationalists, they're peddling these lies about if white Christian nationalists ran America, America would be better off. You know that if white Christian nationalists ran America, they'd be rounding up people to kill, because they would run out of complaints and then they would need to go to the next step, which is hurting people physically, like they did on January 6th, beating people and anybody that stood in their way, including law enforcement, including police officers, including members of Congress. They would all have to be, violently attacked because they weren't white enough, or because they weren't nationalist enough, or because they weren't the right kind of Christian. And what kind of Christian are we talking about here? You see, it makes no sense. And then look at Iran. Iran is a theocracy. Iran is ruled by the Ayatollah. Iran is forcing upon the people a religious life. And you know what? The women, and especially the younger women, They're not so into it anymore. They're not so into being told what to wear. They want autonomy over their own person. And we're having the same argument here right now because misogyny is also part of the male theocracy, the male patriarchy that they believe becomes doable if we're a white, Christian, nationalist country. But you don't have to wonder like how would it work out? What would it look like? What would it be like? Just look over there where they have all white people in charge of everything. Just look over there where they have a theocracy in charge of everything. And then look at their streets. Look at their women. Never underestimate the power of women. Never. And here in the United States, these lunatic right-wingers are trying to take away a woman's privacy rights, a woman's right to autonomy over her own body. Why, just today, an Indiana judge, Trump appointee, by the way, an Indiana judge just blocked Indiana's complete and total abortion ban, saying that it probably violates the Indiana Constitution that guarantees personal freedom, personal autonomy, liberty, freedom. These things are all in play in our own country, right here, right now, in our own country. And you have fringy people like Lindsey Graham doubling down. No, 15 weeks because there's a heartbeat. I got news for you. There is no heart at 15 weeks. There are no chambers of the heart. Maybe a heart will develop way down the road. But at 15 weeks, a fetus doesn't have a heart muscle. A 15-week fetus doesn't have chambers of the heart. The sound that women are hearing is the sound of the machine that is recognizing electrical currents that are pulsing in the place where a heart may or may not form further down the road. I mean, the lying and the control that this party wants over individuals, over women and men, and taking men off the street and putting them, in Ukraine because the leader didn't get enough power. He needs to invade a country or he needs to take territory just for craps and giggles, Just look over there and see how it looks.
This is the Randi Rhodes Show. To speak with Randi, dial 561-270-3844. That's 561-270-3844.
The seventh day of protests sweeping across Iran, prompted by the death of 22-year-old Mahsa Amini. Amini died in the custody of the so-called morality police after her arrest last week for wearing a headscarf improperly. This edited footage, released by Iranian authorities on September 16th, allegedly showing Amini in custody, walking up to someone, then collapsing. The next shot showing her taken out on a stretcher to an ambulance. We do not see how she was treated prior to the incident. Iranian officials saying she suffered a heart attack from a previous health condition, but Amini's father calling that a lie, saying she had no prior health issues and was killed at the hands of police. Strict Islamic law in Iran requires women to cover their hair, but Amini's death galvanizing women cutting their hair and burning their hijabs. All of it with great risk. At least 15 protesters have been killed in clashes with the police. President Biden on the world stage voicing his support for protesters.
We stand with the brave citizens and the brave women of Iran who right now are demonstrating to secure their basic rights.
The administration issuing sanctions in response to the incident and other human rights violations, calling on the Iranian government to end its systemic persecution of women and allow peaceful protest.
So every time I see, a report about the systemic, strangulation, asphyxiation of freedom, and I see people pushing back, I feel encouraged. I feel like the entire planet is full of human beings, and we're much more alike than we are different. And people want to be free. People want to have control over their own beings, their own lives, their own decisions, their own destiny. And when you have a theocracy, whether it's here or there, and when you have a preferred race or the idea that, oh, teachers suck because they teach children how this world operates, or they teach real history, or they teach current events, or they teach about the Constitution and what it provides for, and they are not to be trusted. They are groomers, or they're teaching critical race theory, which obviously is a lie, and they do it in order to rally the haters, rally the people who are full of grievance, and the only power that they can have, that they see, or that they can see that they can have, is over another human being, right? They can't control their government. They can't control their church. They can't control their wages. They can't control their destiny. They can't, but they think that they can control another race, or they think they can control women or another sex, or people who are gay. They think that they are superior, so they therefore can control the others. Every time I see it, whether it's here or there, and I see people pushing back on it, and I see people risking their lives to say no to it, to stop it, to say enough is enough, stop suffocating my life, stop taking away my humanity, stop taking away my free thought, stop taking away freedom of action as long as I'm not hurting another individual. I feel encouraged by it. I feel lifted by it. And so now you have it all over the world. You have it happening just about everywhere you could possibly imagine. People are literally fleeing Russia. They're going anywhere they can go. They're going to Georgia, for God's sake. They're going to Finland. The line of cars to get out of that place is so long. The airports are so crowded. And so you might say to yourself, well, how come he hasn't shut down the border? How come he hasn't stopped people from, being able to board flights? How come he hasn't, shot people who are trying to cross to Finland or trying to cross to, Mongolia, for God's sake? What a great place to spend the winter, huh? Mongolia. Unless you're really into cashmere. Yes, that's where it comes from. But honestly, I can't imagine people fleeing their country to avoid having to shoot other people at the behest of a man who just can't get enough power. Just learn your lesson. Learn it now. Learn it by looking over there. Learn it from the Iranian women. Learn it from the Russian young men, or even middle-aged men who are being conscripted. Learn it. Learn it. Learn what a sham election is. And then listen to what you're being fed by the right-wing lunatic fringe, by the people who are making money off of grievance, by the people who are making money off of telling you that if only white people were in charge, or if only we were a Christian nation, or if only we were, a white Christian nation, things would be fine. Things would be good.
We need to have something like a white uprising, politically speaking, gain control of social media. Maybe just get rid of Congress altogether after that happens. Here's the pathway. We have one more election where white people can make the decision. The white people got to make the right decision, and then Trump's got to get in there and never leave. That, to me, at this point, is a pathway. So it's time to shut up, elect Trump one more time, and then stop having elections.
Nick Fuentes, everybody. Nick Fuentes. We have to act like white people, and every white person has to vote and have one more election, get Trump in there, and then he should never leave. That's very Putin-esque, okay? And let me show you something else, because you could say Nick Fuentes is on the fringe if you wanted to. But oh no, oh hell no. Here's mainstream media. Here's a cable news network. Okay, this was Tucker Carlson last night. He is hosting a colonel who is so disgraced, a man who no one will talk to. No one, I mean, he's been shunned from the military community. Doug McGregor, I don't know if you know who he is. The only person that will book Doug McGregor to opine about what is going on militarily in any parts of the world is Tucker Carlson. Here's
there are
why.
a couple of things at work. First of all, almost from the very first moment that the Russians moved into eastern Ukraine, a succession of retired generals and political hacks in Washington and London and elsewhere have been declaring imminent victory for Ukraine. 7 months later, and the Ukrainian army is bled white. Tens of thousands of Ukrainian troops have been killed or wounded. Ukraine is really on the ropes and trying to create the illusion that that's not the case. At the same time, Vladimir Putin has finally concluded that he can't negotiate with Kyiv, that the real problem is, of course, Washington, and that Washington will not negotiate with him. So he's opted for partial mobilization, bringing in additional forces, ostensibly for the purpose of ending this thing. And at the same time, he's very aware, as any of us are who are in the defense community in Washington, that there's been a lot of loose talk for several months about the viability of waging a limited nuclear war against Russia using the so-called tactical nuclear weapon. And this sort of thing is very frightening to the Russians. They've made it very clear that their use of nuclear weapons is limited to retaliatory strikes in the event that we or someone else strikes them. So they just wanted to reaffirm clearly that they will respond if we use a nuclear weapon.
Look at that graphic. They're literally painting America as a great Satan. Look at the graphic where you see all of these nuclear weapons being unleashed on poor Russia.
It's like War Games. You remember that movie with Matthew Broderick?
Yeah,
it's come to life. I'm looking at it right now. It's so scary.
Yeah, but listen to the propaganda that's going on Fox News. They're sitting there showing graphics of America attacking Russia for apparently no reason at all, right? And that we're the ones that are threatening to use nuclear weapons against Russia when it's clearly Vladimir Putin who is saying, I'm going to have a sham election, and then the people, when I count the votes, will have voted to be part of Russia. And then if any Ukrainian enters Donbass, any of the regions of Donbass, the Donetsk region or Luhansk or any of those, then we will be entitled to use nuclear weapons in those regions to defend what is now Russian territory. And you got propaganda on Fox News trying to sell the American people that their country is bad, that America sucks, America's evil, America is going to start the nuclear war. That's what that graphic is showing, that the nukes are coming from the Midwest. I mean, look at that. The nukes are coming from the Midwest, and they're going into Russia because of American imperialism or whatever they're going to say it is. The propaganda is full tilt boogie. This is so shameful. This is so ugly. This is so disgusting, and it's dangerous. It's dangerous. So now you have some people, who propagandize being brought to the bar of justice. Others are still roaming free across the airwaves, peddling lies.
Mary had a little man.
We believe that all men are created equal.
To the magnificent mosaic that is America.
From radio beacon to radio beacon.
I have a dream today.
Change has come to America.
Believe me.
Help is on the way.
Knock, knock. Who's there?
It's a figment of your imagination.
Randi Rhodes Show. Turn up your mind.
There's something very different about Donald Trump today than the Donald Trump I remember at the Trump Organization.
How so?
I think cognitively there's something seriously going on. He's so worried about what's going on, not just in this case, but in all of the cases, that I really do believe that cognitively there's something going on there. Because nobody, even Donald, is not stupid enough to believe that you can mentally declassify documents. He knew what documents were there. I mean, there's nuclear documents, and we don't even know which ones that they are. We don't know what country they relate to. Right. You know, there's so many people that throw out these conjectures. What could it be? Is it France? Is it this? What if hypothetically it's Israel? And that's how Jared was able to get $2 billion from the Saudi Investment Authority. I mean, we could think of all of these various things. We're not going to know, right? Until, God forbid, there's an incident that takes place. And we don't want that to happen. And he doesn't care. And I believe he took those documents and all of them in order to use against the United States in the event that he is indicted or potentially incarcerated.
Wait,
it's a get-out-of-jail-free card.
Are you saying, and of course the Trump organization is say that is absolutely preposterous.
Because the Trump organization tells the truth all the time, as does Donald.
But are you saying that you think that if he's indicted, that he would use it against the United States, in other words, sell secrets?
Are you joking? Of course. 100%. There's nothing that he won't do to protect himself because he doesn't care about anyone else other than himself. In fact, he'll let his kids go down before him. He'll let them fall on the sword the same way he let me fall on the sword. So that's who he is.
That is freaking frightening. Okay, that is crazy, but it does actually stand comfortably next to what Tucker Carlson is preparing the American people for, and that is a nuclear war that seems to have been started by America. I mean, this is what they're selling on Fox News. This is what Tucker Carlson is telling his audience, complete with graphics of nuclear weapons being launched from like Minot, North Dakota. You know, that's what he had in his graphic. He's literally preparing the American people for a nuclear war, and they will blame the nuclear war on Joe Biden. I mean, this is real. This is serious. This is scary. This is awful. And, you know, people call me up, the maggots, you know, the people who still want to believe in the face of all of this reality, that Trump is a fraud, all of it. Every single case that we have seen points to Donald Trump extorting people, threatening the House members, threatening Mike Pence's life, threatening, obviously, fire and fury. I mean, everything's been threats. Everything we know about him is fraudulent. His wealth is not what anybody was told it was. He lies, he cheats, he steals. And he stole national security documents that our intelligence community, our FBI, our Department of Justice believed or still believes were nuclear weapons secrets. And we don't know whose. We don't know if it was ours. We don't know if it was. And I brought up Israel, too, because it is interesting that Jared got a $2 billion payday from the Saudis. Do you know what I'm saying? It's too bizarre. Jared Kushner has zero experience in private equity. He's a kid who inherited a real estate dynasty from his dad, who also went to jail, okay? Because his dad literally tried to extort his sister-in-law. I mean, crazy stuff. Sent, his sister-in-law photographs of his brother visiting a hooker. I mean, it's just, these are crazy people. These are people that, do really underhanded, dirty, disgusting things to members of their own family so that they can get all the money, right? All right. So Jared, who has no experience at all in private equity, manages to get the private equity, Saudi royal family's private equity, committee, whatever they are, they're all royals, to vote to give Jared $2 billion for a private equity company that he just opened up. Just saying. Hunter Biden. Like, how in the world is it something that occupies that much of your time in your head about Hunter Biden may have lied to get a gun, but you're not bothered at all by the fact that Jared Kushner, who was a senior White House official, got $2 billion from the Saudis? You could have both thoughts. Both things could be true. You understand that? Hunter may have lied to get a gun, and Jared may have extorted, Israel to get money from the Saudis. I mean, honestly. But nuclear documents, that's what Trump stole. That's what Trump took. And Michael Cohen is trying to tell you that Donald Trump may be using the information that he has as a get-out-of-jail-free card. How would that work? Well, if Donald Trump had nuclear secrets, anybody's nuclear secrets, and he got prosecuted or was facing prosecution, or it was becoming clear that he was going to be prosecuted or at least charged, indicted, he could actually, his lawyers currently are meeting in secret with the court. right? They have these secret negotiations going on right now to try and get Donald Trump out of being indicted. Well, maybe they're sharing with the with DOJ. Maybe they're sharing with this special master. Maybe they're sharing with the courts what Donald Trump actually has, and they're telling the courts he'll use it. He will use it against America. He will. Do not prosecute this man. Do something to save face, but do not prosecute this man. That's what Michael Cohen is telling you Donald Trump is doing. Now, Michael Cohen already went to jail for Donald Trump, okay? And he was asked yesterday by Sarah Seidner, well, why do people still believe him? And he said, well, I'll tell you why I believed him.
So why do people follow him? Why do people stick with him? Why does all of his team?
Why did I?
Why did you?
I can only say, there's something missing in my life. Look, I had just come off of a massive health issue, and I was bedridden for quite some time. I blew a whole series of pulmonary embolus that almost ended my life. I'm a deal junkie. There was the celebrity part to it. He had the #1 show, The Apprentice. There was deals going on. I was bored in my life, and I fell into the cult of Donald Trump. And the way that the Trump organization is set up, it's set up almost like a fraternity. And, you become friends with everybody in the place.
You're part of the club.
Goal, yes. And what's the club? Protect the Donald Club at all costs. And trust me, I know, because I paid the ultimate sacrifice.
You went to prison for it.
I did.
So that's what's going on with MAGA, too. It's like you belong to somebody. You belong to a club. You belong to a fraternity. You belong to a gang. This is what happens when people's lives are so empty. And I'm telling you, it happens all over the world. When people's lives are so unfulfilled, so empty, they either turn to drink or drugs or to, some sort of a belonging. This is why people join gangs. They join gangs because their family is not there for them, or dysfunctional, or absent, or there is no father, there is no mother, there's no family. So they join a gang to be part of a group of brothers. This is what goes on in MAGA too, but it's beyond the point of being even remotely okay, because you now have a man who is facing criminal proceedings in multiple states, okay? Criminal, not just civil cases like in New York. He is facing indictment by a grand jury in Georgia, indictment by a grand jury in Washington, D.C. for not just obstruction. We're talking the Espionage Act. That's what he is facing, and he knows it. The Espionage Act. He stole America's crown jewels. He stole secrets, whether they were secrets about covert operations that go and retrieve the kind of information that keeps us safe at night, or it was information that he had about us, or information that he had about another country, or information about an ally that will no longer share intelligence with us because they have no faith that we can keep it quiet, right?
All things Randi at RandiRhodes.com.
Go for launch.
Speaking truth to power, the Randi Rhodes Show.
It seems to me that because Donald Trump's lawyers clearly have no case to press, they say, we're just not ready to tell you whether any of these documents have been declassified, even though our client on what he calls Truth Social hints that they were. And the judge quite rightly presses and says, but didn't your client bring this lawsuit? Isn't it his burden to establish that he has some basis to get these documents back rather than have them protected as secrets that belong to the government? When that happened, it really seemed to me that the game was up. And what does it all mean? What it all means is that quite apart from whatever indictments come down from Georgia, and quite apart from whatever indictments come down for attempting to overturn the election and fomenting a violent insurrection, it's impossible not to indict Donald Trump for violating the Espionage Act, for violating it by withholding top secret government information knowingly, willingly, after being advised by his lawyers that that these documents had to be returned to the government, and for doing that in an unsecure location. That's a very serious crime, not just a technical crime. It's not just a matter of some dispute over storing things in one locker rather than another. This is espionage, and it endangers the security of the United States. So Merrick Garland won't have any choice. It used to look like a hard decision for him. Now it's really quite an easy one.
Under the law. But the lawyers obviously have no case. They have no case. And Trump lost on every avenue that he could lose this week. He lost with the special master, Mr. Deary. He lost with the 11th Circuit Court of Appeals that said the 100 classified documents must be available to the Department of Justice for their inspection, right? So separated out from the 11,000 other presidential records that Donald Trump stole, the top secret and compartmentalized intelligence, the classified documents from that tranche of 11,000, right? And said that you have to let the Department of Justice inspect those documents, the classified ones, right now. And so you know what DOJ is going to do with those documents. They're not just going to look at them to see what the content of them is, but they're going to dust them for fingerprints. See, they're going to do the forensic work that happens because you watch, Law and Order or CSI, whatever. That is going to happen. Why? Because they need to know who handled them. They need to know who touched them, who's handled them, what humans passed those documents from one to the other. Who are these people that were given information contained in these top secret documents? See, and this is why Trump's lawyers ran to the court to speak in private to the court, okay, about you can't indict this man because he will pull a plug. When you do the forensics, you're going to find out that he gave this information, whatever it is, to somebody that should not have it. And he will instruct them to go ahead and use that information to destroy America, if America indicts him, if the Department of Justice indicts him, because the charge is going to be the Espionage Act. The charge is not a mere obstruction charge. And it doesn't matter in the obstruction case whether or not those documents were classified or not. It just matters that Donald Trump took them, that the National Archives requested them, that he said he didn't have them, and then after they subpoenaed him, knowing that he did have them because they were missing certain things that they should have had, like the Kim Jong-un love letters or Obama's, welcome to the White House letter at the transition of power between Obama and Trump, right? So the archives knew that not everything was returned that was properly supposed to be returned. Okay, so they subpoenaed him. Well, he lied in response to the subpoena. So that's where the obstruction comes from. And it doesn't matter if they're classified or not, which is why you hear people say all the time, it doesn't matter if they're classified or not. But for the purpose of the Espionage Act, it certainly does. And they certainly were. And they certainly are classified documents. And that is why the Department of Justice sent a the head of counterintelligence and the head of the Export Control Act, which deals with nuclear information, to Mar-a-Lago. And when he understood what they had there, he said, you better put a lock on that door. And I'm sure he told the national security apparatus, you need to pull people out of the field. This explains why so many covert operators are disappearing or dying all of a sudden. We need to change our strategy. We need to pull people out. We need to do this. We need to do that. We need to safeguard this secret or that secret. Because it's, obviously, that is what he had. That is the caliber of the information he had. So he's looking at the Espionage Act. And that's why his lawyers are meeting in secret. They have no defense whatsoever. Oh, and by the way, the special master who was freed from having to even look at these classified documents, Raymond Deary, the Brooklyn judge, who's been a federal judge for 35 years and served on the FISA court. So let me tell you two things about Raymond Deary. First, what Raymond Deary said. He said that he needs help. So he's asked for another lawyer, an ex-judge who he served with, to help him sort through these 11,000 pages. So this guy said, I need $500 an hour to go through these documents. Well, the court, even loose cannon there, ordered that because Trump asked for a special master, the costs of a special master have to be eaten by Donald Trump. So Donald Trump is now on the hook to pay this helper judge $500 an hour to sort through 11,000 pages of documents. Well, everybody knows Donald Trump doesn't pay his bills. So the court actually put into the retainer agreement to retain the special master and any help the special master requires. They put in the retainer agreement that if Trump doesn't, if he stiffs these lawyers, if he stiffs these judges, it's contempt of court and he will go to jail for that. Now, only Donald Trump requires that to be inside of a retainer because he's such a scumbag. But they're going to look at these documents now, physically examine them for fingerprints, physically examine them for, literally flesh, pieces of your skin that fall off on documents. They're doing that right freaking now. That's why his lawyers ran to meet in secret with the prosecutors. Because they know the documents are going to tell the tale. And Donald Trump is getting very desperate. And Putin is getting very desperate. And the Ayatollah is getting very desperate. And the world is pushing back. The world is saying, you think you're desperate because you didn't get everything? We got nothing. Watch this.
Connect. To speak to Randi, call 561-270-3844. 561-270-3844.
You watching this on Free Speech TV? Are you watching this on DirecTV 348 or Dish 9415 or Apple or Roku or Sling? Yeah, human beings actually toil to get this there for you, and they need to get paid. They are the unsung heroes of Free Speech TV. We're the people that you see on the camera, okay? But they are the people who toil in the background because they believe as much as I do about what we're doing. And so we do pledge drives quarterly. This would be the fall Free Speech TV pledge drive. Please call 877-378-8669 and make a donation today, or text the letters FSTV to 44321, 44321. Put in FSTV. We'll send you a secure link. You can make your donation that way, or just go to freespeech.org on the web and donate that way. Know that every dollar that you give today is going to be matched dollar for dollar. Up to 50,000 of those dollars will be matched. So if you did $50,000, it would be $100,000. Just saying. We have all kinds of things we would like to send you, as a lovely little thank you. So please do ask when you make your donation what is available for you to get as a gift, and we will gift it to you in utter and complete thanks for your support. Brother David in Michigan.
Well, sister, a couple of weeks ago got from the last version of this, and YouTube, chat room, people's, go for it. And among the happiest things in the mystery surprise bag was a Celebrate Earth Day everyday bag of seed balls that I can toss on the highway and wildflowers will grow.
Oh, you like that one? Yeah.
I loved it. Boy, this is a Friday fraught with fraudulent fascists falling.
Yes.
And the rest of
It is the falling fascist Friday. That is what it is. I mean, when you look at all this news, it's not good for any of the bad people in the world. Not good.
At all.
Yeah.
At all.
Right.
And you haven't even gotten to Rhonda sentenced, and the Gates connection.
Okay, so for those of you who want it in a nutshell, this is really simple. So
Please.
Matt Gaetz and Ron DeSantis conspired together. Now, Matt Gaetz had a law partner, and the law partner and Matt Gaetz, when they were practicing together, represented the airline, this company that is doing migrant removal. Okay, and so one of them is a congressman, Gaetz, and the other one is our Department of Homeland Security, our immigration guy. and they're kicking back $1 million to this airline that is doing migrant removal. It's all for profit.
Transparent. They have all, and I include Vlad the imploding as well, been caught red, and I do mean red-handed.
Yes.
And it's there. It's undeniable.
And
the Blue Nami would appear to be global.
Yes, it is global. People are sick of the autocracy. They're sick of the heavy hand. They're sick of being suffocated in their own lives. They're sick of being told they don't have control over their own bodies. And the whole world is pushing back. And this is a great thing. This is it's an amazing thing.
I agree.
It's like Biden said, don't ever, ever underestimate the power of women. Don't do it. You do it at your own peril.
Well, the planet has been going on the opposite of that for so long, and the shift that was finally long overdue, started in 2020. We're now seeing the results of it.
Yes, absolutely.
We're mutating quicker and quicker, and I love you always. Gorgeous girdles for everyone.
Have a great weekend. Thank you for calling me.
Nicely done, Brother David. Vlad the imploding. I don't know about you, but that's the first I've heard that.
Yeah, he is imploding. And so is Trump. And so is the Ayatollah Khomeini. And so is the Ayatollah's little boy, son, who was supposed to, be the new Ayatollah. People are having none of it. They're just so sick of it. Now, I want to show you something, because he brought up, Brother David brought up Matt Gaetz. Okay, so let me display for you what the actual dilemma is that Americans legitimately face, okay? Besides for the white supremacy and the little sliver of people that believe that, America ought to be a theocracy, we should establish the Christian religion, whatever version of that they have in their heads, I don't know. And that white people are better suited to govern other white people. I mean, just look at Russia. It didn't work out. But I want to show you what the real problem is. The grievance comes from a place. It comes from a real place. It comes from dissatisfaction with governance. Now, while the United States is still a democracy hanging on by its fingernails, and when Donald Trump was running, he ran on two things, the racist grievance, and he ran on something called drain the swamp, right? Because people in this country generally understand that there are people who use our government simply to enrich themselves. And that is true. They are not wrong about that. So let me show you yesterday in the House of Representatives. I'm going to show you something. It's shocking. I swear to God, it's shocking. I'm not building this up to let you down. But this is the banking committee yesterday, okay? This is a House member. His name's Trey Hollingsworth. And he was leading the banking committee in an investigation into some devious banking practices that literally break our backs, that literally pick our pockets, okay? And here he is conducting his questioning of the biggest banks in America. Watch this.
The gentleman from Indiana, Mr. Hollingsworth, is now recognized for 5 minutes.
Well, good afternoon. I'm excited to be here with each of you. Before I get started on my questions, Mr. Moynihan, I wanted to let you know, Saruthi, raise your hand, Saruthi. She has been my team member for a couple of years now, but on Monday, she becomes a Bank of America team member, about which she is very, very excited. So I hope you'll take good care of her and know and recognize the talent that she has shown already in our office. I'm sure she'll do the same at Bank of America.
We will do that, and her father already works for us, so he'll take care of it. You should have called us.
Her father already. Oh, call us. We'll hire her.
Well, I appreciate the opportunity to chat about some of these issues today. What I'm really interested in is the state of the economy.
How are you floating your resume to big banks? I mean, you're supposed to be the ones, policing the big banks. I mean,
grow up, Jamie.
There must be some kind of law against working for a financial institution right after you've been working in financial regulation, right?
No. Hey! Doggy!
Hey! Come over here! What are you doing at Caesars?
He's a Goldman. Yeah.
Her father already works for us, so he'll take care of it. You should have called us.
That's the swamp. That is a Republican member of the House of Representatives who's on the ballot, by the way, in Indiana, in the 9th District. Yes, his name is Trey Hollingsworth. Indiana, if you live in the 9th District, you get to vote for him or not for him. He's in charge of banking oversight. And this is the swamp. His assistant, who is responsible for oversight over U.S. banking, making sure it's transparent and it doesn't, defraud Americans, and it doesn't overcharge you for a bounce check when Donald Trump can rip them off for millions, okay? His assistant is going to work for Bank of America, and Bank of America sits there and says, yeah, well, her father already works for us. And then the other guy from Citibank, oh, well, next time call us. We'll hire her. We'll hire her. That's the swamp.
This is the Randi Rhodes Show. To speak with Randi, dial 561-270-3844. That's 561-270-3844.
Okay, so you want to know how the swamp works. So I just showed you how the banking committee swamp works. Now I'm going to show you how the DeSantis Matt Gaetz Vertol Airlines, this private little airfield, I'm going to show you how that worked.
Vertol Systems Company has contributed thousands of dollars to GOP super PACs and was once legally represented by close political allies of the governor. To date, the company has received nearly $1.6 million in payments having to do with DeSantis' migrant moving program. I want to bring in NBC News senior national political reporter Mark Caputo, who broke this story for us. So, Mark, tell us what dots you connected when it comes to the air charter company that did this and Governor Ron DeSantis.
From what I understood in my reporting is this company, Vertol Systems, which few people have really heard about,
right,
had given a bunch of money to a number of candidates, including the former Secretary of Education in Florida, Richard Corcoran, who's a DeSantis ally. But when he was running for governor in 2017, he received $15,000 from this group. So I called up people affiliated with the fundraiser and found out that the money had been given at a fundraiser hosted by Matt Gaetz, the congressman from the Panhandle, who's a close ally of Governor DeSantis. And from there, I realized in checking the records that Matt Gaetz and Ron DeSantis's current public safety czar in charge of immigration, a man named Larry Keefe, were law partners together, and both Gaetz and Larry Keefe represented Vertol Systems, this very company that now got this contract to move these migrants, which the governor's office won't comment on. It won't tell us the scope of work. They won't give us the contract, despite Florida's sunshine laws. So I just put the dots together and reported what we know, and that's about it.
So what we know is that that Matt Gaetz and his law partner in their previous lives, Larry Keefe, worked together in a law firm and represented Vertol. This is the little private Destin, Florida flight school that airlifted these they are authorized to be here asylum seekers, which Ron DeSantis then told you when he lied to you that they were unauthorized illegal aliens. They are not. They are authorized aliens. They are allowed to be in this country. They can move freely about this country. And he decided to funnel to Vertol $950,000 this week to move them to Delaware from Texas. And obviously they have to start in Florida, but they're not starting in Florida. This is why the whole thing is illegal, and it's all a kickback. That's how the swamp works. So it says the state budget authorizing the program, which is a coronavirus program, has, limitations on what the money can be used for. However, if you use money, not from the coronavirus, because that you can't use it for this. So there's the first broken law. But if you use money to move unauthorized aliens, they need to have started their flight in Florida. That didn't happen either. But this is Matt Gaetz and his former law partner, who is now our commissioner on the Department of Homeland Security in charge of immigration, kicking back to Vertol millions of dollars because they supported Matt Gaetz and they supported Ron DeSantis when they were trying to become House members and governors. That's the swamp. This is the revolving door. This is why bad people like Matt Gaetz get into government, so that they can make money. Let me show you Trey Hollingsworth, okay, because I need for you voters to see your representative.
The gentleman from Indiana, Mr. Hollingsworth, is now recognized for 5 minutes.
Well, good afternoon. I'm excited to be here with each of you. Before I get started on my questions, Mr. Moynihan, I wanted to let you know, Saruthi, raise your hand, Saruthi. She has been my team member for a couple of years now, but on Monday, she becomes a Bank of America team member, about which she is very, very excited. So I hope you'll take good care of her and know and recognize the talent that she has shown already in our office. I'm sure she'll do the same at Bank of America.
We will do that, and her father already works for us, so he'll take care of it. You should have called us.
Well, good. Well, I appreciate the opportunity to chat about some of these issues today. What I'm really interested in is the state of the economy.
How are you floating your resume to big banks? I mean, you're supposed to be the ones, policing the big banks.
Grow up, Jamie.
There must be some kind of law against working for a financial institution right after you've been working in financial regulation, right?
No. Hey! Doggy!
Hey! Come over here! What are you doing at Caesars?
He's a Goldman. Yeah.
Her father already works for us, so he'll take care of it. You should have called us.
Sick. Sad. Bad. So what's the solution, Rand? What's the solution? Undo Citizens United. Seriously, get the money out of politics. That is what it looks like when there's money in politics. That is how they grease each other. This is the revolving door, where a girl who sits on a banking committee member's staff doing oversight of U.S. banks, supposed to be regulating U.S. banks, then goes to work for the U.S. bank while her old boss is in charge of regulating U.S. banks. What could go wrong? Mark in New Jersey.
Hi. I'm calling today to get back to that issue that you have presented with Trump using these documents to use it like a get-out-of-free jail card.
Uh-huh.
Now, wouldn't it be reasonable to think that the Department of Justice would come down heavy on that and even tempt him to do it, because that would lead to treason, right?
Well, it leads to the Espionage Act, and being tried for espionage is what it leads to.
Okay.
And and his lawyers don't have a defense.
Right.
Okay, so that's why they're in secret meetings right now, trying to persuade the judge not to do this, because he's dangerous. Literally, he's extorting us now and our national security. That's why he took. You know how everybody sits around and says, why did he take them? Why did he take them? Nobody knows. He won't say why he took them. Now you know. It's his it's his get out of jail free card. If you come after me, I will torch the country. Okay?
Well,
this is what I've said. He's like the psychotic boyfriend that every woman in this audience knows, right? Who says, if I can't have her, nobody else can. And goes and kills her so no one else can have her. That's how he thinks of our country. That's the only role we play in his demented mind. Putin too. Putin will sacrifice whatever. He will sacrifice his own men who are fleeing the country. I mean, a brain drain that is happening in Russia right now. People are leaving in droves. They can't get out fast enough. And the only reason why he doesn't shut down the borders is because then there would be complete and utter panic in Russia. Okay? And that's the only reason why he's letting people go. Because he does control the airlines. He does control the sky. He does control the borders. He can control people going to Mongolia. He could shut down the border between him and Finland. He could shut down the border between him and Georgia. The only reason why he doesn't is because he's scared of the people. Okay? He's scared of the people. Well, Donald Trump doesn't give a damn about the people anymore because he's out of power. And he has nothing to lose. And that is what is so scary about him. Jerry in Minnesota.
Yeah, Randy, first-time caller.
Oh, hey.
Love your show.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm calling for a boycott on all cable outlets that carry Fox News and Newsmax. I just called Dish Network, which is my cable company, And I told them if they don't remove Fox News Channel and Newsmax by the end of the year off of my lineup, then I'm going to cancel my subscription to Dish Network. And I'm calling on everyone else to call their cable channels, their cable companies,
Their providers, yeah.
Yeah, to get rid of Fox News and Newsmax, because those are fascist news channels, and they're trying to destroy our democracy. And I'm a Vietnam veteran, and I can't stand for that.
Thank you, Jerry. I understand what you're trying to do, and I appreciate it very much. They are dangerous. There's no question. Sitting on your TV show and saying that the United States is going to attack Russia instead of Russia attacking its neighbor is twisted propaganda. And propaganda is dangerous because it works on the marginal. It works on people who want to belong to a club, who want to be surrounded by like-minded, brothers. We're in trouble, but we will prevail. I'm really sure of it. I'm really, really sure of it. Have a weekend. We'll meet back here next week, January 6th.